Hi, Joe. This is Father John, a former Catholic priest and now an Episcopal priest teaching church history. Joe, as you continue your formation as a postulant in the Episcopal Diocese of Texas, understanding the history of the Roman Catholic Church in America is important, not only because Catholicism is one of the oldest Christian traditions established on what is now United States soil, but also because its history provides a useful comparison with the later development of the Church of England in the colonies and eventually the Episcopal Church. This comparison helps us understand something larger than denominational history. It shows how two ancient Episcopal Christian traditions crossed the Atlantic from Europe, entered very different colonial circumstances, encountered the American Revolution and the new constitutional order, and eventually learned to live within the religiously pluralistic society of the United States. The Roman Catholic Church arrived on the lands that would later become the United States before the Church of England established its permanent presence at Jamestown. Catholic Christianity came principally through Spanish exploration and colonization. Spanish expeditions commonly included priests because the Spanish crown understood territorial expansion and Christian evangelization as closely connected responsibilities. The lasting institutional beginning of Catholic life in what is now the continental United States is most clearly associated with St. Augustine, Florida. In 1565, Pedro Menéndez de Avilés established St. Augustine, and Father Francisco López de Mendoza Grajales celebrated a massive Thanksgiving following the landing. St. Augustine became the oldest continuously occupied European established city in the continental United States and the center of the oldest enduring Catholic parish tradition there. This is an important historical correction. Christianity in America did not begin only with the Pilgrims at Plymouth in 1620. It did not begin only with the Church of England at Jamestown in 1607. Catholic Christianity was already being practiced in Spanish Florida decades earlier. For you as an Episcopal postulant, this is significant because American church history should never be told as though Christianity arrived through only one European tradition. The religious history of the United States developed through Spanish Catholic, French Catholic, English Anglican, Puritan, Reformed, Quaker, Lutheran, Baptist, Methodist, and many other streams. And before all of them, indigenous peoples were already living on these lands with their own societies, governments, cultures, languages, and spiritual traditions. Catholic missionary history, therefore, has to be understood within the larger history of colonization. Missionaries often acted from genuine religious conviction and sometimes made profound personal sacrifices, but missionary activity was also intertwined with European imperial expansion, cultural disruption, disease, displacement, and pressures placed upon indigenous communities. That complexity is important. Church history should not become propaganda for our own tradition. It should teach humility. From Florida, Spanish Catholic missions spread through other areas that later became part of the United States, including Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California. Franciscans became particularly important in the Spanish mission system. In California, the mission network associated with Junipero Serra began with Mission San Diego de Alcalá in 1769. Catholic influence became so deeply embedded in the region's geography that names such as San Diego, San Francisco, Santa Barbara, and San Gabriel still testify to the Spanish Catholic heritage. This is particularly relevant for someone discerning ministry in Texas. Catholic Christianity was present in what became Texas through the Spanish mission tradition long before Texas became part of the United States. So the Christian history of Texas itself is older than the American nation. France contributed another Catholic stream. French missionaries, especially Jesuits, traveled through Canada, the Great Lakes, the Mississippi Valley, and Louisiana. French Catholic settlements helped establish enduring Catholic communities, particularly around New Orleans. Religious women also became extraordinarily important. The Ursuline sisters arrived in New Orleans in 1727 and became involved in education, orphan care, and health care. We can already see one distinctive pattern. Catholicism entered the future United States through several different European empires. Spanish Catholicism came through Florida and the Southwest. French Catholicism came through Louisiana, the Mississippi Valley, and the Great Lakes. Then Catholicism entered the English colonial world in another important way through Maryland. Maryland is especially important for a comparison with Anglican history. After the English Reformation, Catholics in England experienced substantial religious and political restrictions. The Catholic Calvert family received the Maryland Charter, and in 1634 the Ark and Dove brought colonists, including Jesuit priests such as Father Andrew White, to Maryland. Maryland was not an exclusively Catholic colony. Protestants were present from the beginning and soon became the majority, but the Catholic proprietors hoped to create a place in which Catholics could live with greater security. This eventually contributed to the Maryland Toleration Act of 1649, formally the Act Concerning Religion. The law did not establish religious liberty in the modern sense. Its protections were limited principally to Trinitarian Christians, yet it represented an important experiment in religious coexistence. And here, Joe, there is an important lesson. Religious liberty in America did not arrive fully developed. It was learned painfully. Catholics experienced what happened when they were excluded. Protestants experienced persecution in other settings. Anglicans sometimes enjoyed establishment and political privilege. Dissenters such as Baptists and Presbyterians sometimes suffered because of that establishment. American religious freedom developed partly because different communities gradually discovered the dangers of allowing civil government to privilege one church while restricting another. Catholics remained a relatively small minority within British colonial America. Anti-Catholic sentiment was widespread. In the Protestant imagination, Catholicism was often associated with France, Spain, monarchy, and loyalty to the Pope. Pennsylvania offered comparatively greater toleration, which allowed Catholic communities to develop there. By the time of the American Revolution, Catholics were still a small minority compared with the overwhelmingly Protestant colonial population. Then came the Revolution. This is where the Catholic and Anglican histories become especially interesting to compare. For American Anglicans, the Revolution created a crisis because the Church of England was constitutionally tied to the British Crown. The monarch was supreme governor of the Church of England. Anglican clergy had obligations related to the crown. The prayer book included prayers for the king. So independence forced Anglicans to ask, how can we remain Anglican if we are no longer politically English? For Catholics, the problem was different. Catholics did not have to separate themselves from the Pope because of American independence. Their spiritual relationship with Rome could continue. But they did have to demonstrate that communion with Rome was compatible with loyalty to the new American Republic. That distinction is crucial. American Anglicans had to become ecclesiastically independent of the Church of England while preserving Anglican identity. American Catholics remained ecclesiastically united with Rome while developing an American expression of Catholic life. Two Episcopal traditions therefore faced the same new republic but responded through different ecclesiological structures. Catholics also participated in the struggle for independence. Charles Carroll of Carrollton became the only Roman Catholic signer of the Declaration of Independence. His story is particularly significant because his Catholic faith had earlier prevented him from enjoying some of the political rights available to Protestants. Daniel Carroll later participated in the Constitutional Convention and signed the United States Constitution. Then another figure becomes important, John Carroll. John Carroll is to early American Catholicism something like what Samuel Seabury and William White are to early American Episcopalianism. That comparison is useful for your formation. After independence, American Catholics needed an ecclesiastical structure appropriate to the new nation. In 1784, Rome appointed John Carroll superior of the Catholic mission in the United States, generally described as apostolic prefect. Then in 1789, Pope Pius VI appointed Carroll the first bishop of Baltimore and the first Catholic bishop for the new United States. He was consecrated in 1790. Baltimore consequently became the mother see of American Catholicism. Now compare the dates. Samuel Seabury was consecrated the first American Episcopal bishop in Scotland in 1784. John Carroll became leader of the Catholic mission in the United States in 1784. William White and Samuel Provoost were consecrated Anglican bishops in England in 1787. In 1789, American Episcopalians organized their national church through General Convention. In that same year, John Carroll was appointed Bishop of Baltimore. Both churches were therefore reorganizing themselves for life in the new republic at almost exactly the same moment in history. But their ecclesiastical solutions were different. The Episcopal Church became autonomous. It preserved bishops, priests, deacons, sacraments, creeds, liturgy, and Anglican theology, but it no longer belonged politically or juridically to the Church of England. The Catholic Church remained part of the Universal Roman Catholic Communion under papal authority, but it developed an American hierarchy appropriate to the new political circumstances. This is one of the most valuable comparisons for an Episcopal postulant. Both traditions valued Episcopal ministry. Both understood themselves as historically continuous with ancient Christianity. Both were sacramental. Both developed dioceses. Both understood bishops as significant to the unity and governance of the Church. But they developed different understandings of where final ecclesiastical authority resides. Roman Catholicism retained a universal structure centered upon communion with the Bishop of Rome. American Anglicanism developed as an autonomous church within a wider communion of churches, eventually known as the Anglican Communion. The Archbishop of Canterbury did not become an Anglican pope. The Episcopal Church governs itself through its own constitution and canons, bishops, dioceses, and general convention. This difference helps explain an important distinction between Roman Catholic and Anglican ecclesiology. Catholicism emphasizes universal ecclesial unity under papal communion. Anglicanism emphasizes communion among autonomous churches sharing historic episcopacy, common theological inheritance, liturgical tradition, and relationship with Canterbury. Neither history can be understood properly without appreciating what each tradition believed it was preserving. John Carroll also understood something important about the American political environment. The new United States prohibited religious tests for federal office, and later, through the First Amendment, prohibited congressional establishment of religion while protecting free exercise. This meant something revolutionary for American Catholics. They did not need America to become officially Catholic in order for Catholicism to survive. They needed freedom. The historical source summarizes the insight powerfully. Catholics did not need an officially Catholic government. They needed religious liberty. American Episcopalians were learning a similar lesson from another direction. Before the Revolution, Anglicanism had enjoyed legal establishment in places such as Virginia. After the Revolution, that establishment disappeared, and yet the Church survived. So both traditions discovered something important in the American experiment. The Church does not need political establishment in order to be the Church. Catholics could remain Catholic without controlling the government. Episcopalians could remain Anglican without support from the British Crown. This is enormously important for ministry today. Christian authority does not need governmental coercion. Christian witness must ultimately depend upon proclamation, worship, sacrament, service, persuasion, holiness, and faithfulness. John Carroll also emphasized education. Georgetown College was established in 1789 and eventually became Georgetown University. Catholic educational institutions would become one of the great contributions of American Catholicism. Then the 19th century transformed American Catholicism. Immigration brought enormous numbers of Catholics to the United States. Irish Catholics came especially during and after the Great Famine. German Catholics arrived. Later came Italians, Poles, Lithuanians, Slovaks, Czechs, and others. French-Canadian Catholics migrated into New England. Mexican and Latino Catholic communities expanded in the Southwest and elsewhere. Catholicism increasingly became an immigrant church. This profoundly shaped American Catholic identity. The parish became more than a Sunday worshiping community. It became a place where immigrants found belonging. Language was preserved. Culture was preserved. Families formed communities. New immigrants learned how to become American while retaining their religious identity. This is another useful comparison with Episcopal history. The Episcopal Church was initially strongly associated with English colonial culture and, in many places, with socially established populations. Catholicism increasingly became associated with immigrant communities who were often poor and socially marginalized. The two traditions, therefore, occupied different social positions during much of the 19th century. Catholics were repeatedly asked, "Can you truly be American if you are loyal to Rome?" Episcopalians had already faced a related but different question: "Can you remain Anglican after rejecting political allegiance to England?" Both traditions eventually answered in practice, yes. Religious inheritance and American citizenship did not have to contradict one another. Catholic religious women played a particularly important role in building American institutions. Sisters established schools, orphanages, hospitals, and charitable ministries. Elizabeth Ann Seton founded the Sisters of Charity of St. Joseph and established a school for poor children in Maryland in 1809. Over time, networks of Catholic schools and healthcare institutions spread throughout the country. This part of the story should matter greatly for someone preparing for ministry. The strength of a church cannot be measured only by doctrine, hierarchy, or beautiful worship. It must also be measured by service. Who educates children? Who cares for the sick? Who accompanies immigrants? Who feeds the poor? Who cares for orphans? Who stands with the forgotten? Church history becomes meaningful when theology becomes ministry. But the Catholic story also includes suffering from prejudice. During the 19th century, anti-Catholic and anti-immigrant movements became powerful. Catholic churches were attacked, convents were threatened. Catholics faced political and employment discrimination. The Philadelphia riots of 1844 included deadly violence and destruction of Catholic property. The Know Nothing movement turned anti-Catholicism into a political organization and attempted to restrict the political influence of Catholic immigrants. Catholics responded not merely through argument, but through participation in American life. They served in the military, they entered politics, they built schools and hospitals, they joined professions, they organized charitable institutions. Eventually, they became judges, governors, legislators, and presidents. And this became one of the great tests of American religious liberty. Does religious freedom protect only the majority? If so, it is not really religious freedom. Freedom becomes meaningful when it protects minorities. That principle is important for Episcopalians as well. Another part of Catholic history should not be ignored. Catholics participated in the same moral failures present in wider American society. Some Catholics owned enslaved people. Some Catholic institutions benefited from slavery. Some missionary systems became connected with structures that oppressed indigenous peoples. Catholic communities sometimes failed to confront racial injustice adequately. And here we again discover a parallel with Episcopal history. Anglicans also participated in slavery. Anglican institutions existed within colonial structures that displaced indigenous peoples. Both traditions, therefore, have reason for humility. Neither tradition should tell its history only as the story of saints and successes. Every church must learn how to confess both what its members did faithfully and where they failed to embody the gospel. For formation, this matters. A postulant should not learn church history in order to say, "My tradition was always right." The better question is, where was Christ faithfully proclaimed? Where did Christians fail? What must we learn? Where must we repent? What should we hand on? What should we never repeat? Now we can compare the historical beginnings of Roman Catholic and Episcopal Christianity more clearly. Roman Catholic Christianity arrived first on what is now continental U.S. soil through Spanish colonial expansion, with St. Augustine in 1565 representing the enduring institutional beginning. It spread through Spanish and French missions and later took hold in English colonial Maryland. The Church of England established its permanent American presence with Jamestown in 1607. Catholicism arrived connected with Spanish and French imperial Catholicism. Anglicanism arrived connected with English colonial power. Catholicism retained communion with Rome. Anglicanism eventually had to become independent of the English crown and developed into the Episcopal Church. The Catholic Church organized its American hierarchy under John Carroll. The Episcopal Church organized its episcopate through figures such as Samuel Seabury, William White, and Samuel Provoost. Catholics developed diocesan life while remaining under the universal Roman Catholic structure. Episcopalians developed diocesan and national structures through an autonomous general convention. Catholics retained papal jurisdiction. Episcopalians retained bishops while rejecting the idea that an external national church or monarch should govern the American church. Both traditions retained sacramental Christianity. Both understood ordained ministry in episcopal terms. Both valued continuity with historic Christianity. Both developed educational and charitable institutions. Both had to adapt to an American system of religious liberty, and both had to learn that political establishment was not necessary for ecclesial survival. This comparison also helps you understand Anglican identity. The Episcopal Church does not define itself merely by saying, "We are not Roman Catholic." That would be historically inadequate. Anglicanism shares much with Roman Catholic Christianity: the creeds, the Trinity, the Incarnation, baptism, Eucharist, historic episcopacy, bishops, priests, and deacons, liturgical worship, the Christian calendar, sacramental spirituality, continuity with the ancient church. At the same time, the English Reformation created substantial theological and ecclesiastical differences. The Church of England rejected papal jurisdiction. It emphasized Scripture in the vernacular. It developed the Book of Common Prayer. It embraced major insights of the Protestant Reformation. And eventually, American Episcopalianism developed a highly participatory form of governance in which bishops, clergy, and laypeople share constitutional responsibility. Understanding Roman Catholic history therefore helps an Episcopal postulant to understand both continuity and difference. You do not need to diminish Catholicism in order to understand Anglicanism, and you do not need to pretend that the differences are insignificant. Historical maturity allows us to say, here is what we share. Here is where we differ. Here is what history teaches us. The Catholic experience in the United States also teaches an especially important principle. Political unity does not require religious uniformity. America gradually became a society in which Catholics, Protestants, Jews, and eventually people belonging to many other religious traditions could share citizenship without being required to share one church. This principle matters deeply for ordained ministry. You will minister in a pluralistic society. You will encounter Roman Catholics, Baptists, Methodists, Presbyterians, Lutherans, Pentecostals, Orthodox Christians, Jews, Muslims, people from other religions, people with no religion. The calling of an Episcopal priest is not to erase those differences. It is to proclaim Christ faithfully while respecting the conscience and dignity of others. History has shown us the danger of confusing Christian mission with political coercion, and this may be one of the deepest common lessons of Catholic and Anglican history in America. Both traditions arrived from European societies where church and political authority were often closely connected. Both eventually had to learn how to exist in a republic without ecclesiastical establishment. Both discovered that Christianity could flourish through freedom. The Roman Catholic Church remained authentically Catholic while becoming American. The Episcopal Church remained authentically Anglican while becoming American. The Catholic Church remained connected with Rome. The Episcopal Church remained connected with the Anglican Communion. Neither needed to surrender its religious identity in order to participate in American society. The source expresses this historical lesson clearly. Catholicism demonstrated that religious faith does not have to disappear for a pluralistic democracy to succeed, and political freedom does not require people to abandon their deepest religious convictions. Joe, for your formation, I would summarize the comparison this way. The Catholic story begins in America with mission. The Anglican story also begins with mission. The Catholic story carries the Eucharist into Spanish Florida. The Anglican story carries the prayer book and Eucharist into Jamestown. The Catholic story develops through bishops connected with Rome. The Episcopal story develops through bishops historically connected with England and Scotland, but eventually governing an autonomous American church. The Catholic story learns to remain universal while becoming American. The Episcopal story learns to become autonomous while remaining Anglican. Both traditions discover that the Church must survive without depending upon political privilege. Both traditions build schools. Both build hospitals and charities. Both struggle with questions of race, colonialism, migration, and national identity. Both contain saints. Both contain sinners. Both contain moments of courage. Both contain institutional failures. And both demonstrate that the Church is always called to continual conversion. For you as a postulant, therefore, the purpose of learning Roman Catholic history is not simply to compare denominations. It is to understand the larger Church. Remember that Anglicanism did not emerge in isolation. The English Reformation emerged from Western Catholic Christianity. Many of the things Episcopalians treasure did not begin in the 16th century. The Eucharist did not begin with Cranmer. Bishops did not begin with Henry VIII. The creeds did not begin with the Church of England. The Scriptures did not begin with the Reformation. The doctrine of the Trinity did not begin with Anglicanism. The Church existed long before our particular branch of it developed. That realization should produce humility. The Anglican tradition inherited much from the ancient and medieval Catholic Church. It then reformed elements of that inheritance. The Episcopal Church later received the Anglican tradition and adapted it within American culture. So, when you study Roman Catholicism, you are studying part of the historical world from which Anglicanism itself emerged. That does not erase the Reformation. It helps us understand it. And it helps us understand what Episcopalians mean when we speak about being both Catholic and Reformed. The final lesson may therefore be this: know your own tradition deeply enough that you do not need to distort another tradition in order to defend it. Learn Catholic history with respect. Learn Anglican history honestly. Recognize the shared Christian inheritance. Understand the real differences. Study where each tradition served faithfully. Study where each failed. And ask what the Holy Spirit may be teaching the Church through all of it. The history of Christianity in America is not ultimately a competition over who arrived first. Catholics arrived before permanent Anglican settlement. Anglicans later became deeply influential in the 13 colonies. Other Christian communities also contributed enormously, but the deeper question for a postulant is not who was here first. The deeper question is, what did the Church learn when Christianity came to America? It learned that faith can cross oceans. It learned that ancient traditions can enter new cultures. It learned that Episcopal Christianity can exist without monarchy. It learned that Catholic Christianity can flourish without a Catholic state. It learned that religious liberty can protect both majority and minority. It learned that Christian institutions can accomplish extraordinary good while still participating in serious injustice. And it learned that every generation must decide again how to proclaim an ancient gospel faithfully in a changing world. Joe, that is now part of your formation. You inherit the Episcopal tradition, but you serve within the one larger history of Christianity. Understand where Roman Catholicism came from. Understand where Anglicanism came from. Understand where they remained connected. Understand where they separated. And then allow that knowledge to shape you into a minister who is historically informed, theologically grounded, ecumenically respectful, and deeply committed to the mission of Jesus Christ. That is why the Roman Catholic Church in America is worth studying as part of your preparation for Episcopal ministry. It does not merely tell you the history of another church, it helps you understand your own.